The last couple of Zwift races I had done them after what I call big events. One of those events was doing squats and deadlifts the day before. Then the day before the next race, I had done a century. So that knocked my score from 350 plus down to 348. Now you may be thinking, hey, we got a ringer in this category. But to add more information, I am 69 years old and I've been subject to atrial fibrillation for about the past 9 years. Hey, cycling community, this is Steve, Grusis the Cycling Greek. Now, after this race, my racing score went up to 352. That meant my racing category was now between 350 and 520. The next race I did was 2 days later, and I did this same course. So that's what this video is about. How my race went when I was at the top of the category, and how my race went when I was at the bottom of the category. What you're seeing is the first race. Now, this race category is 180 to 350 points. I had done my squats and deadlifts 2 days before on Sunday, so my legs were just minimally affected. I made sure I warmed up well, and the start was not very taxing. So let's go over the numbers. We have about 33 riders in this race. Surprisingly, I'm not the oldest rider in this race. There's a 70-plus-year-old Mike Lusinski from New Zealand. Usually, I've been able to position myself wherever I wanted to, and where I want to in these cases is toward the front, so make sure there's no gaps or there's a smaller chance that I'll get gapped and I'll be able to react to whatever attacks or surges that may be coming. Jumping ahead to about the 12 mile to go mark of this 15.5-mile race, it may seem like that I hadn't been having any problems, but now we get to a climb and I have a hard time climbing on Zwift. I love climbing on the road, but just seem to have a hard time climbing on Zwift. I also have to admit that I'm starting to feel a little bit those squats and deadlifts 2 days before. Now you may be thinking 2 days, that's enough to recover, but keep in mind I'm 69 and when you get older, things just take longer, including recovery. This is where the separation starts to manifest, or to put it another way, where I get dropped. Looking at the graphics on the right side, I'm in 15th place, just in the top half, and where I like to finish in these races is in the top half. So there's a danger that I can get caught by others and I'll lose that positioning. Basically what I did as soon as I got dropped is look around to see who's close to me. I'll look in the upper right hand corner, that little insert map. I look at the data on the right. The analysis of this data pretty much determines how much trouble I'm in. Trouble in this case means, am I going to be riding solo for a long period of time? And if I do, what usually happens is that I'm going to be caught by people from behind. Now, the best situation for me is to see if there's riders close and form a small group. Jumping ahead to about 2/3 of the race to go, I'm in that small group. And so at a certain point, I decided to take off to see if I can maybe whittle this down by 1 or 2 people. I take off on this climb and I put pretty much everything I have into it. I'm also gathering information. And the information that I gather from this attack is that, these guys are pretty strong. I'm not dropping them. Unless we catch those ahead of us, our group has 12th through 15th place. With 33 people, that puts me still in the top half for a finish. I have now jumped to about 5.5 miles to go. We have caught a couple other riders, and now we are a group of 6, and it's becoming kind of unmanageable, so I decided to take off. I'm thinking and hoping that this climb is a perfect place to do that. My fellow chase group members are about 2 seconds behind me. Now the next person up ahead is about 1 minute, so the chance of me catching him is very small. So the best place I can get right now is 10th place. 54-year-old Henry Corley from the United States and John Denham, 57, from Canada, have bridged up to me. The other 3 have been dropped so far. They're about 2 seconds back, and actually a couple of them have dropped to about 12 seconds. Corley has countered me. He's now about 1 second ahead, and we're still on the climb. Now, right now we're showing about 525 feet of climbing, and this race has about 636, I think. So there's still a little ways to go. Now, I am able to dig up to him, and Denham, he's right on my wheel. With 4.7 miles to go, right now it's looking like the best I can do is 10th, and the worst is 12th. It'd be cool to get a top 10. I'm able to make it up to Henry, so the dream is still alive. We have now jumped to half mile to go. 53-year-old Benny B from the United States has caught up to us, and so now we're coming in for the sprint. I can't sprint. I need to try to get away from these guys, so I put on the gas, and I'm going with about 0.3 miles to go. It's looking like I can do it, but then Henry comes by and easily takes it. So I don't get my top 10, but I get 11th, definitely in the top half. Now let's go to the second race, and see how that went different. It was a tougher category, and then we'll look at the numbers. The race you just saw, I was in the 180 to 350 point category. Now, this race is the 350 to 520 point category. Each of those categories have a 170 point spread. Now, you may remember in that first race, I was toward the front right at the very beginning, and I just nestled in quite nicely. This one, I'm toward the back, and I'm having to work up to get toward the front so I can have that buffer that I always want. And it's not so easy for me in this race. Where the other field had 33 riders, this one has 147, so a lot more people to hide behind. In the other race, I got dropped with 11.4 miles to go. In this race, I'm getting dropped a half mile sooner, 11.9. Right about now, I'm looking at that little map insert, and I'm thinking that I'm last. So what am I going to do? But I look at the graphics below that, and I'm sitting at about 110th out of 147. So I keep going. A little while later, a rider catches up to me, then he drops me on the climb going to the volcano. Some other riders catch up to me, and I'm able to get my legs going and get onto their wheels. It is now about 9 miles to go, and I'm with these stronger riders, and I'm hoping that being with them, we can catch some stragglers that are coming off the front groups. Jumping ahead to 5.5 miles to go, we're hitting that climb where I attacked before in that first race. 60-year-old Yames from Burkina Faso attacks. I go with him. Well, my intent was to go with him, but he's slowing up, so I just keep going. My intent is the same. Whittle down the group, get some faster riders with me that I can hang on to, and looks like I'm dying off here and everybody's starting to go off, at least most of them. Everyone, I'm sure, has their eye on that group that's ahead of us. It's only about 11-12 seconds. My group, or at least the group I was with, is about 2-3 seconds ahead of me, and the next people behind me is about 12 seconds, 13 seconds. So I have a ways to go, and I'm in no man's land, and I can get caught and get a much worse position than I am now. Pretty much the only thing I could do now is just lay down the watts, as many watts as I can, for as long as I can. After over a mile of chasing, I finally connect. As you can see, these guys are spread out, so I'm not just content to sit on the last guy's wheel. I need to get to whoever's in the front. I do get up to what I think is the front of the group, but I find that there's a couple riders, Yames and Palomino, that have bridged up to another group that's about 8 seconds ahead. Impressive. It is now 2.5 miles to go, and I've been with 53-year-old Alexander van Meeberg from the Netherlands. We've been going not too hard, not too easy, but there's a rider that's about 6 seconds behind us and another group that's even though 20 seconds behind that. This is a stronger category, so I just take off on this climb, taking a chance. This is a long ways. It is now 1 kilometer to go. I am still solo. Van Meeberg has been caught by a couple others, and they are about 6-7 seconds behind me. This is still too close. Fortunately for me, there's only about 5 more feet of climbing in this course. If I was to encounter a big climb after doing all this effort, I'd get cooked right after the start. It is now 0.2 miles to go, and 18-year-old Seaman Berkevet from Norway is putting up some red numbers. I've never put up some red numbers. I'm trying to get there before he does. He's about 1 second behind me, and boom, I was able to make it, albeit in 111th place, and that's not top half. All right, let's look at the numbers. Let's first take a look at the summarized view. My average power and my normalized power were of course higher in the harder race, but not by much, although it was easier enough so that I was a lot more punchier in the lower category race. And my heart rate supports that, with my average being 86% in the harder race compared to 82% in the easier race. An interesting thing to note as I show you the zone distribution for both of these races is that I finished both of these races in the same time of 40 minutes 34 seconds. The zone distribution for the easier race on the bottom includes an extra 90 seconds of easy riding. As one might expect, there was a lot more tempo, threshold, and VO2 max work in the harder race. I mentioned earlier that I was a lot more punchier in the easier race, and that's evidenced by my having 4 times as much zone 7 work in the easy race as I had in the hard race. I hope you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it. Hope you found it interesting. As always, remember, comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.